Thinking you're so clever, took on the world.
You seldom get an opportunity to be tested by history and thrown into the deep end, where actually all the selfish elements that you find within human beings have to sort of like rise and take precedence over everything. And you just get this one chance to say, here's a test, what would you do? If you were to give away your life for the cause, would you really do that? Even as we joined the African National Congress and decided to go out into war, we knew if we were lucky we would survive, but the logical conclusion would be death.
You're so mighty, Mr. Fool. Thinking you're so clever, took on the world.
I was raised here. This is a city in which I was raised. You know, this is the city that gave me my strength. This place is called Windsor East. Well, obviously, colonialists built this place. Hence, if you look at the streets, they are all English streets.
My political education was given to me by Aaron Mia. Well, it took him a while to educate me about some of the events. Some of them happened when they were happening. I was very young, of course. And they didn't make sense then. That's how I became the member of the African National Congress. If you remember at the time, around about the 70s, politically, the country was very dormant, except small little cells. People were doing work quietly.
We used to buy music from very hidden stores. That's how you'd get music about political songs, political literature.
Reggae music started really getting into the country in various ways. We had been receiving some of the material that you would normally not hear on the radio. People like Jimmy Cliff, House of Exile, Follow My Mind. When the reggae wave hit the country, a lot of people started getting conscientized at the time. I should have left in 1974, I delayed. It was 75, I delayed. Eventually in 1976, that's when I left the country.
1974, I was at the University of the North. 75, 76, this is when this happened. Even the universities were explosive.
June 16 galvanized the youth of the country to stand up against the apartheid system.
In a major way, the youth shifted the responsibility of leading the revolution of our country to themselves.
The explosion in 76 was as a result of something that was building for years. I'm talking from way back this early 60s. Now this is mid 70s.
Africa, my Africa. Africa of proud warriors, Africa of whom my great-grandmother sings of. along the banks of a distant river. I have never known you, but your blood flows in my veins, your beautiful black blood that irrigates the fields. Africa, tell me, Africa, is it you, the back that is bent, the back that says yes to the whip under a hot midday sun? A grievous voice answers me, impetuous son, look over there, that tree over there, that tree young and robust amongst the white faded flowers. That's Africa, your Africa, acquiring the bitter taste of liberty.
After the 1976 uprisings, large numbers of youth from our people came out into exile.
Ukumgcina kwami ngamgcina mangikhumbula 2nd or 3rd July 1976.
I was personally involved in basically all the camps which our organization had in places like Angola, Tanzania, Zambia, and so on. And amongst a number of young people I met was James Mange.
Death meant nothing.
He really just wanted to come back and fight.
We were very young, with a lot of revolutionary zeal. Nothing intimidated us, and we just did what we wanted to do, the way we wanted to do it, regardless of the consequences. Came back in 1978. That's when I got arrested.
Against the tanks and guns of the security forces.
After some times, sesibone ephepheni uthi uJames uboshwe wombats, adisguise as a priest.
Guerrilla man, people's soldier.
I finally remained in prison to join the other co-accused.
After the Mandela treason trial came the treason trial, the Maritzburg treason trial, where we read about people like James Mange. I hadn't known him. I didn't even think I would ever know him.
You had a level that was concerned about legal issues, which was basically the legal team. And you had a level of revolutionaries who were more concerned about a political victory. And Heffer was like, because he was not expecting it, that was the judge that was trialing them. He was fetched from Free State and brought to Maritzburg to come and try this case. Then the battle started. We all simultaneously turned and faced the other way, giving him our backs. And we started singing.
They were stronger. And that gave people like us, people who grew with this pain of being, treated less than human beings, hope that with resistance, they will ultimately there shall be victory. You see, because the question of talking to people and saying, don't do this to us, let us sit on the table, it didn't seem like it was going to work at that stage.
We got there in September. By November 11, we were sentenced.
I mean, the courts were surrounded by police.
The sum total of the sentence was about 189 years, plus the death sentence.
People were crying when they left the courts. I believe they were falling all over. When he was whisked away to Central Prison, it was like it's the end of the world.
And then we were transported back to prison. But this time I was separated from the 11 others. The warders were very happy and so on and so forth. This chap even came around to look at me and he was like, yeah, I told you. I said, you told me what? I said, no, I said, fuck you. You are nothing now, you were nothing then, and you will remain a nothing.
The ambience was so tense. They had to tune in to radio stations that were not beaming into South Africa and listen to some of these reports. But the shouting, that to me was like the blood of James Mange shall water the tree of liberty.
Of course, as we all know now, Solomon Mahlangu was hanged. When that happened, we were afraid that the regime, which was totally insensitive to international public opinion, would also hang James Mange. And therefore we took up this campaign to save his life with greater vigor and greater determination. In practically every part of the world, there were mass campaigns. Well-known international stars attended these concerts and events to save the life of James Mange and his comrades.
Wathi one time esihlezi endlini sesikhohliwe nje but kumbona nje siyaya fika ama-reporter uma wefika kulutho awu fike lapho sebasithatha iy'thombe bathu James angeke asahengwa seyiyekiwe angibhani usentenze 20 years uye Robben Island. Kunokuthi sikhale we start shouting, hey, we celebrate, thanks God, inshallah, at least he's alive.
You had different generations of prisoners. I can only speak for myself. You know, the power that drove me. I spent the first night on Robben Island in C-section, which is this one. My first night on Robben Island was here. In terms of what the system was dishing out, take your letters, hold them back, cut them, cancel your visits, classify you the worst category, where you cannot even buy things to supplement your own, system. But in terms of my music, each time I had to write music because other prisoners were studying and they were doing all sorts of things. So I had to take my guitar, take a blanket, wrap it around me. Obviously that didn't work that well because I seem to still suffer from a lot of cold. When I come here, there used to be a plank here. I'll take my chair, sit here, and write my songs. You know, I'll play my guitar, write my songs right here. This is where I wrote my songs. This section.
There was Bertram Gonzalez. He would come here, leave his saxophone here, leave the book here, and the instrument itself. And I would take that book, go through the book, understand, oh, this is what a saxophone is. You know, it's on key B flat, and you know, this is the range. And I started practicing on the saxophone.
Bona iphepha but anginaki ngithi le-Rasta le front page ngazi next. Akuzothi ntambama sesiphume ebholweni. Omunye ubrother mathi konje ubani bhuti wakho ngithuma ngathi uphumile yinkunzi ureleasiwe. Hawu mangibheka iphepha uya ngithi manje sengididwa ama-dreadlocks lawa amakhulu. Ngiye ekhaya mangifika ekhaya wonke bathi uthi uphumile sijabulile ke. After sengazi ukuthi uphumile mhlambe emanti ngibizwe uEmma umudli athi kimoza la egate opposite ne-office athi ukhona ubhuti wakho ngapha uJames. Ngithe ukhona ngisuke same time ngitry. Ngifike ngimbona but bengimsaba ke nami ude terrorist uyayibona lento lena siboshwe Robben Island. Mhlamba ngangincinda ukuthi why ngazange ngenze lento bekayilo.
James.
Yeah.
This is brother.
All right.
Hey, long time. You are happy to see you are back at home.
Sure.
That's it, that's fun.
You know,
Yes.
Duang.
Agatulan.
No, alright.
Thank you.
Aba uri.
Yeah.
Here is a wonderful story. Here is a wonderful story. I want to tell you now. And I want to tell you. Here is this young story. Repito this young Jada. It was born 80 years ago. But there is also been so much pain now. There's been so much pain now. We've been up and downs now. We've been up and downs for you. It is for you that they've been so many. It was on this day that your hope was born. As I say, sing to this young woman. So hold the young. The iron sea so hold what young. The iron sea so hold what young. She's just a little girl, so old. She's just a little girl, but so old, so old, so old. She one day he was traveling in the jungle. Then I had a gunfire.
The first time I saw James, flesh to flesh, he had these long, thick dreads. And I said, oh, he was good looking then. Oh, he was good looking.
What are we looking for?
311.
311. I almost came here.
Yeah. 263. Proceed.
Yeah.
You should know what it looks like. 267. It's further on. The name James Mange rang a bell, you know, and then I forgot about him. Do you still remember what the building 271? Even then, there was still a lot of upheaval in the townships. You know what I mean? At night, I used to wear a coat and a man's hat and drive a car, move, you know, through roadblocks and whatever. So one day, we went to James's home. I saw this Rasta again, and we chat. Then it came the time of the Congress in Durban. I realized that he wanted to be near me. It was like something was going to happen, but I wouldn't let it happen. Then he started phoning my home. And if I say I'm going out with friends, you'd say, why are you going out with them? He started taking possession of me before we knew we were together.
So much pain. Where is your yesterday? Where is your tomorrow? You lost in yesterday or today. There is something so deep. This is a major desire. This your desire happen. What you want to get out in tomorrow? You the only people that can get your tomorrow right. It's in your hands. All the children starving to death because they are hungry. The government and the system, and the system is responsible. Tell me, there is so much blood filling the streets. They walk into the trains. Yes. Your soul is on fire. Your soul is on fire.
And then we've had this Nigerian show. I believe the band has a future.
Soul is on fire.
Oh, that's better. I remember my very first meeting with who we used to call Dada, but I used to call him Diva. That very day, I had just left the isolation block, and I was escorted by two comrades, one from Pretoria and one from Namibia. We walked into the corridor. As we were coming towards Comrade Mandela's cell, he came from where we used to play tennis. We called it the sports room. He walked up to us and looked past us. And this is what he said. Chulo, where is James Mange? Surprised, I looked at Chulo, I looked at Comrade Toivo. Then Comrade Chulo says, but Madiba, here James, which meant here he is. He looks at me as though he couldn't believe it. Then the next thing he said, is this the man that shook Pretoria? Is this the man that shook the world? I can't believe it. Happy birthday, Deba.
James emerged, to my mind, particularly to me, post the June 16th event, when he refused to come out of Robben Island until the country was fully, in his words, liberated. Obviously what he meant was that he expected to come into a country that was ruled by a black government. And that to me was, the determining moment of James as a principled leader. Obviously in protest against the fact that he had to succumb to his principles, he decided to form the Soca Party.
We've been playing in like nightclubs, meet up with sound engineers and things. Like there was a guy called Steve Gordon, So Steve Gordon, we used to do our sound when we were playing around. He's around. We used to do our sound. So he used to tell us of the eye of the Rasta in Robben Island. You see, that he's working with the eye, like trying to bring some equipment for him in the island. You see, so that's where I heard of the eye. And then it comes a time of like so-called freedom of ANC and things. So I came around, with this like so-called Soca Party. And we took the eye to the Rasta community, a community called Makaskav, you see. The time the eye came, he came with the so-called political wagon, you see, the Soca Party. So I don't deal with so-called party man, Rasta crash party man, that's all. You don't deal with party man. So I come with so-called Soca Party, and that thing caused like, there was a tension within Rasta, You say, hey, this is another political thing,
But in the same principled manner that James has been, known to me, he turned around and rejoined, without fanfare, rejoined the ANC.
We are 12 years into the democracy of our country. And 30 years after the June 16 uprisings, our people are able to vote. Now there is a much bigger challenge that is facing the country. Poverty affects a number of our people. And this will happen all in the same category.
nami ngine-hope ukuthi ubhuti wami uzoba sepalamenti, nami ngizoba nemali, at least ngizophila impilo e-right, ukuthi nami maybe ngizoba yitswane ngizozihlalela kuma-suburbs, angisponsor ukuthi naye imali ngoba uzoba sebenza umsebenzi o-right. Bekubuhlungu ngoba obvious mawuzombona uzokhala, according ungale akana freedom njengawo ngapha, yabona, ukuthi maybe kunama dreams sonokwayenza ukuthi mhlambe bazomrelease ubuye naye, yabona, and then impilo izoqala ibe ngcono meke khona.
As you can see, one cannot have a good, healthy, post-Robben Island kind of situation. Sometimes when I told people that you could actually see water running down the walls, and they just thought I was lying. I mean, you can see the walls here. What Robben Island dished out was chicken feed, actually. The only thing that I seem to see now and seem to realize now, many years later, is that somehow, through the cold years and so on, water running down the walls, like I was saying, the young men could carry that, never really thinking of what it might become in future. A lot of the comrades, sick, some have died. The Robben Island cold. And I think it also got me. I think it also got me.
Let me just tell you a very, very brief story of this gentleman. He was a soldier. He fought until arrested, and he was initially sentenced to death by the South African government. And his sentence was removed, was changed to life imprisonment. He spent more than 10 years on Robben Island here. Do you want to greet him, or do you want him to say a word? Say a word. Do you want to greet him?
No, that's fine. I'm sure you're doing a good job. But what is important for you as young people is just to make sure that this country never goes down the route it went. You as young people should make sure that you become, from these experiences that you get in this place, because the struggles in this place were about human beings getting better. Becoming better human beings. That was the most important thing. The victories, the fears, the pain, the anxieties were all meant to transform each and every one of us to become a better human being. Now, that's the legacy we will leave you, not to come here on a Robben Island visit. When you get into this place, try to hear the footsteps of the people that are here, because you can hear them. Try to hear the agonies and the anxieties as you move from one cell to the other, because you can hear them. Listen to the song that's within the walls. Very old songs, one after the other piling up. But if you listen very closely, you will find that it was all for transforming, not only South Africa, the entire world, making people into good people. That's what it's all about, becoming good people. Well, unfortunately, I've just been hijacked. The young man that was very exuberant, the young man that just stormed across the barricades without thinking twice, he's gone. That boy or that young man is gone.
He was saying, I'm strong, I'm what have you, but I think my strength is as a result of the anchor that he's given me. He's anchored me truly to this life and to value this relationship. It hasn't always been good. A good time to me comes like at the clock. You go down, you go up. Before you get a good time, you must have been down. So we start down, and then we battle. We go up. There are good times. And the years, as the years go by, let's say from 91, 94, 96 to 2006, we've been through the circle once or twice. I must say right now we're going down. Well, I'm probably going up because I think we've been there. But, I have this philosophy, the Chinese philosophy. They say when you go down, at least when you fall onto the ground. You can still touch the ground and get up. This is my role in James's life, because sometimes he feels he's running out of energy. When times get really tough, he feels, should he probably have let you down or what? I said, thank God we're still alive. Not just important, I think important would be underplaying the strength of the spiritual life of a human being, particularly in my relationship with James. When I met him, he was a Rasta, and I knew little about Rastas. So I got to know, why they call people Sister Benjamin, this and that, why they cover their heads in public, women wear dresses, blah, blah, blah. And some of the things that I learned were wonderful. But then one thing, unfortunately, it was after the death of my second son. There were elders from this church who came to us and said, if you give in enough to the Spirit and to God, you'll be able to communicate with Him. I had never been to church for something like 20, 30 years for a number of reasons. To me, it looked like an instrument of oppression, blah, 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 blah. One of the reasons why I went to this church is the tradition. When you have, you give to those who don't have. There are times when the clothing has to be collected for people who don't have clothes. But it's automatic. It's not an instruction. Everyone who has more than what he can handle gives to those. That's what appealed to me about this church. It is no different from the belief of the communist, because this church is the church of the people. I must say I was really, really blessed. James is not what I am. He's very quiet. He's peaceful. So being with him, I managed to get all the peace. I used to say to my friends, I'm happily married in a certain way. I've got inner peace, something that I never thought existed, where my stresses, my anxieties, my fears just go away. And this is one of the most, important blessings that I've had in being married to James.
in the 90s, I did this album, Read My Story. But things didn't go that well with that, period and so on and so forth. There were a lot of things happening. Now, I continued to hope that one day I'd be able to do an album and do it the way I wanted.
This is James Mange. This man was also the...
Yeah, he was explaining to you.
Okay. Things are coming, I can't wait to see and also get to meet the eye and get the wheel rolling.
You must remember, with the material I came out of Robben Island with, I only used one, only one. It was still then 8 tracks. Read My Story. And then the bulk of the material is still there. So the other 12 that I've done now, some I've just composed, and I'll take a few from the old ones and So I've got a lot.
Material is your material.
Wow.
You can rearrange 10 times, 20 times.
Exactly. Okay.
Siqale kule ndawo abeqondile sicule apha
D flat minor. D flat major.
D flat major. Eight. So change on go to E flat. 1, 3, 4, A flat.
Because after E una 3 bars.
Oh,
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay. Songs that
It's either someone is too tired. Where's your problem?
Yeah, it's here. I've done this section here, né? Up to here, but it's a repetition.
It goes back. Yeah.
I'll go back,
Yeah.
but as it is.
As
Okay,
it is.
okay. So I'll do that.
Yeah.
Okay, Rick, let's do it. James, can you sing for us just a guiding line?
Okay.
That's his guide.
We have a collective consciousness. In this collective consciousness, we all subordinate our own expectations that we create as individuals. I've gone into the studio, laid down 12 tracks. In that respect, I always, even in the past, used to say, I am an undying soul.
Not this Lord.